The thing is, Yoselin never showed up with the kids to the swimming lesson. So naturally, I assume the mother ends up calling but didn't get an answer, so she goes home. And when she gets home, she discovers something extremely terrible. And when she gets inside, she discovered that her two children were stabbed multiple times and were in.
I
It's a
eat
giggle bite.
Activia. So
Do
yeah,
you really?
yeah, I take Activia. I don't have anything wrong with it. It's like the taste. Serious.
I have Google Fiber. Leave that part in. Everyone, I have Google Fiber. This is Battle. We're Bros of Murder, and it's just us two today. We bring you true crime cases of color and musicians you've probably never heard of before. So sit back, relax, and get the fuck ready for what we're about to throw down to you today. And that's the intro.
What the fuck is Google Fiber?
Google Fiber's internet, bro.
Oh, I never even heard of that.
I have like one, it's really fast internet.
Oh, the 5G. That shit Ben Shapiro.
It's fiber internet. It's really fast.
I mean, yeah,
it's like
good
1,000 megabit downloads. So 1 gigabyte downloads. So it's really fast. Gigabytes.
Yeah, so this episode, it's just the two of us because shit happens. So this theme was paranormal, right? It was your idea, right?
It's like paranormal, supernatural. Mine, like,
not the show.
No, it's just like something that happens because of paranormal stuff that's going on.
Yeah, ghostly wiggly woos. Now mine is paranormal, but also very grounded in reality and real. Like, you can't blame ghosts for the crime, but maybe they were the catalyst. So, I mean, do you want me to go first, or I know yours is like shorter?
Yeah, you could go first.
Okay. All right. So now mine is about a spiritual advisor who arranged a murder of a couple that owed her money for lifting a curse. Now, I will say that these are Vietnamese names, so I might mess them up in pronunciation. So now, Vietnamese immigrants Long Na Jin and Hong Lee came to the United States in 2000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fresh start, living the American dream. Now, unfortunately, this really bad actor of a spiritual advisor would take advantage of them and would ultimately lead to both of their murders. Now, so this couple brought their family and moved to Arlington, Texas, and I don't see it for Texas. Don't know why anyone would choose to move there. I never had fun. Food's good. That's about it. Now, the area where they moved to was a thriving community at the time of mostly Vietnamese people, and those roots stretched back to like the 1970s. The couple opened up a commercial sewing business, and their son-in-law named Tran was the face of the business. And he was mainly because he was the best English speaker, so he just fit the role. Over the next decade, the business grew and eventually landed contracts with Disney. By 2011, however, their fortunes had dried up completely, and due to their cultural background, they assumed that there was some curses or bad spirits haunting them, causing them this misfortune. So they sought spiritual aid to put them back on the top. The family had believed that a curse had been placed on their business, and the only way to get rid of it was through a spiritual advisor. In a Vietnamese newspaper, they found an ad for a woman named Daphne Wright, who lived in Houston, which is like almost 300 miles away. Texas is obnoxiously big.
It's annoying to drive through also. It's so boring. Like,
it's just flatlands and hats. That's not a fan.
Flatlands and hats.
You can put that on a t-shirt. So now she advised that she could take off bad curses, and she also advertised in this newspaper publicly that she could also put them on people. So whatever you needed, she was there for it. She's basically like Ursula for the Vietnamese community in Texas.
Ursula?
A baddie. So now Tran, the son-in-law, traveled to meet her, and using a credit card attached to the sewing business, he paid Daphne to remove the curse he believed was ruining his family business. Despite Daphne's supposed mystical powers, the company's finances kept going south, and they went into debt, continuing to pay for her services. And just guess how much they owed her?
10 grand?
No, baby.
More?
Mm-hmm.
110 grand?
More.
$280,000.
$280,000.
210 grand?
$280,000.
That's a lot of money for spiritual. That sounds like a church.
It's like after you think the first, curse removal didn't work, find a new witch. Don't keep going back to the same one. So, a couple of days went by after. Well, this happened over the course of months, obviously, and at one point on June 10th, 2012, Tran called 911 because he hasn't heard anything from his in-laws, and he requested a wellness check on them.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators get to their small apartment, and it was a complete mess. In the bedroom, the police say they noticed a bloody handprint on the wall next to a small closet. Inside that closet were the bodies of 72-year-old Nguyen and his wife, Lee, stuffed in there. Not only stuffed, but they were hog-tied with duct tape, yards, like literal yards of duct tape, taped around their face and head and nose.
Were they suffocated?
I'm gonna get there because the couple also appeared to have been beaten brutally with blunt force objects, and the autopsy revealed that the death was suffocation. So they were beaten severely, and then had their faces and nose and mouths duct taped to suffocate.
That is brutal. That sounds like overkill
for a two elderly couple. Yeah, I don't think you need that force to. You don't need all that. That's a lot. Mm-mm. So now the apartment. They also noted that the apartment showed signs of a life and death struggle, and it was completely ransacked. They also found drug paraphernalia, including, and I'm only saying it like this because I kept seeing it in different articles, and I find it funny. A smoked marijuana cigarette.
What?
Yes.
A joint?
Yeah. But that's what a lot of different news articles kept calling it just a marijuana cigarette. And that marijuana cigarette was laid out on a table, very plainly in view, next to a random blue bandana wrapped around a beer bottle, obviously trying to suggest there was like gang activity or involvement in some way. Trying to say, here's a band. Yeah.
Was it the son-in-law?
I'm gonna get there. So now investigators learned that the deceased couple had a $1 million life insurance policy between the both of them. Tran was one of the beneficiaries. Detectives spoke to him again on June 3rd, so this was a day after they found the bodies, and he was very cooperative. He had his story and his alibi ready, and he was also confirmed. His alibis were confirmed by multiple people, including multiple family members. So he couldn't be placed anywhere near or around the apartment or in it. Mm-hmm. And so with no leads, no DNA evidence at the scene of the crime that was bringing up anything, the case went cold for almost 3 years until October 2015, where a DNA match finally came through, which was pulled off said marijuana cigarette. Now, the DNA on the marijuana cigarette belonged to at the time in 2015, 20-year-old Willie Guillory, who had recently been arrested for stealing a horse. Because, Texas. Now, Willie was 16 at the time of the murders and had never been arrested for a felony before, so he never had to, submit his DNA to the CODIS, which is the national database for criminal offenders. Mm-hmm. But once he was arrested, he had to submit his DNA, and he got a hit. He was brought in for questioning because he was still on parole at the time, and as soon as he was brought in, he made a full confession.
He was just like, "Oh yeah, I totally did that."
Yeah, they didn't take long for them to press him. He completely just opened right up and started telling everyone what happened. Now, Willie told detectives that at the time of the murder, he was living in Houston with his uncle, 49-year-old Bobby. Again, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
On the night of June 9th, this was a couple of days before the murder, his uncle brought him along on a 3-hour drive to Arlington. His uncle had been hired by Daphne Wright, spiritual advisor, to shake down the elderly couple for the money that they owed her. She offered them about $10,000.
Dang, $10,000 to beat up old people?
Yeah. So they entered the apartment with a key that Daphne Wright gave them. Suspicious. How she get a key, right? And they went in there and waited for the family. They also brought along drug paraphernalia and a bandana in order to mislead the investigators to think that it was like a local gang that came in and robbed them. However, Willie made a stupid mistake of smoking said marijuana that he brought to place as evidence and still placed it as evidence, not realizing he would be leaving his DNA behind. Bobby and Willie just laid in wait until the couple came home. As they walked in through the front entrance, Willie beat both of them unconscious with a baseball bat.
Why? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're just gonna ruffle some feathers, like, why are you gonna beat the shit out of someone with a basebal bat?
I didn't think he understood the assignment. He was. So
No.
that's the best I can assume is that he just didn't understand the purpose of what. I don't. Because they said he immediately just beat them with the bat. So because they're elderly, they're not gonna. They're gonna look pretty, bruised and beat up from that. And the uncle panicked, assuming that they were both gonna be dead anyway. Brought them to the bathroom, duct taped their mouths, eyes, nose shut, and threw them in a closet. And they suffocated. So after the 3 people involved got arrested, the rest of the story started kind of like coming out bit by bit, but I kind of don't believe most of it. So Daphne called Bobby, offered him $10,000 to shake down the family. After she learned about their insurance, this is what she said. She learned about their insurance. She hit up Tran to, work together. Like, hey, instead of me just beating their ass to get this money, how about we kill them and then we split the million? Tran agreed to help. Yeah, he agreed to help stage the murders in order to collect the money. So now the only reason why he's not arrested, because in exchange for complete immunity, he cooperated fully with authorities. He said, and now this is the conflicting story. He said that his family was terrified of Daphne Wright and was just scared of what she might do with her mystical powers if they don't pay up. So Tran claimed that his mother-in-law had the idea to sacrifice herself to collect on the insurance money and pay off the debt to the family. Which immediately calls into question, okay, let's say this was true and she was sacrificing herself. Why did her husband also get murdered? And why?
Because they both got murdered because in order to get the full $1 million, they had to both be dead. Because if it's like, what if they're each $500,000 ahead? You know what I mean? Like if their life insurance policy capped out at $500,000 or $450,000 each person, so to get the maximum amount, both of them had to die.
Okay, let's follow this train of thought. You're setting up your own death.
Train of thought.
You're setting up your own death to help pay off this witch you owe money to.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you choose to be beaten with a bat and suffocated with duct tape?
To make it look like gang activity. I don't know. They already stating marijuana cigarette and
get a gun. Someone get a gun. Just shoot me in the back of the head. Like at that. Like I don't want to suffocate and be beaten with a bat by some 16-year-old high on weed, high on a marijuana cigarette. Where's Nancy Grace when you need her? This is the case that she was looking for. Marijuana killed these family. So now, Daphne and Bobby got life in prison. Willie, he got 20-something years. He's actually going to be out in 2025 when he's 29. And Tran, that piece of shit, because I don't believe his story, is still walking free.
Dang. I don't know though, because I'm like thinking about like my family. There's so many really weird superstitions about things. And then when I'm talking about my family, I'm talking about like the Filipino side of the family. Like there's a lot of superstitions that we have, and it's just really, I am just dumbfounded sometimes. I'm like, what? No.
So when I was in
You
Qatar, I
can't
made
predict when people
friends.
are pregnant. Stop.
So I didn't
Just
realize
stop.
this. So like when I was in Qatar, I made friends with one of the workers there. It's a nice lady, and she's like around our age. So like we all connect with her really well. She's fun as hell.
Hmm.
And one day we're out at the Top Off, which is like this little bar place, getting drinks. And I'm like hammered. And she's like, "Oh well, get some chicken noodle soup." And I was like, "What? Why?" And she was like, "Oh no, it's good for you. When you're drinking a bunch, you get some soup and you're good." I was like, "That sounds disgusting."
Yeah, that would make me feel very full. I already feel full when drinking beer, so I couldn't imagine having to do soup on top of that.
Imagine doing like a thick bisque.
Put some cornstarch in it to make it even more thick.
You feel it going down your throat.
It's like baby spit.
Oh. But yeah, no, that was my case. The battle. It topped that.
And now, a short commercial break.
Nerds! Dreaming of a change of pace? Let NerdWallet help you compare your way from here to there. Compare investing accounts to expand your portfolio and your horizons. Then, use NerdWallet to compare mortgage rates for a home with peace and quiet built in. Compare your way there. Find the smartest financial products for you on NerdWallet. NerdWallet Compare Inc. NMLS 1617539. NerdWallet is not an investment advisor nor an investment broker. Information is for educational purposes only.
I can't top it, but it's kind of, mine is really sad. Well, I think it's sad. It's a very grim case.
Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Oh no.
Material Girl.
So it's a grim case. So trigger warning: if you have kids, today my episode is about a nanny who. So this case is pretty horrifying, a very horrifying one at that. And on October 25th of 2012, the parents of two sweet children had their lives changed forever. So the nanny's name that I'm going to be talking about is Rosalind Ortega. She is a native of Santiago de Caballeros in the Dominican Republic, and eventually she immigrated towards the United States, or to the United States, and became a naturalized citizen.
Good for her.
So during the time in the States, she lived in Hamilton Heights, in a Hamilton Heights neighborhood in Manhattan with her son, sister, and her niece. And the timeline on where she lived and where she lived, it was kind of like weird to me because I was reading a lot of different sources. There's a lot of different sources on this person. Mm-hmm. She lived in a lot of places, but this is one that I could dial down to. So she lived there with these people. Her son came eventually later when she went to go visit and came back with him. And for her, she had a lot of financial problems according to some sources, but she always worked. And during this year that Yoselin murdered these two children, which, by the way, even though she had a hard time, it doesn't excuse her actions, by the way.
Were these her children or someone
else?
No,
she's a nanny. It's a different family. So she had a lot of financial heartaches or hard times during this time, this year that all this happened. So she ends up going to go visit, brings her son back, and by then she's already working for them, but we'll get to that a little bit later. We're going to jump around a little bit. So she brings her son here, and her son goes to a private school, which is common for people in the Bronx area, the area that she lived in, to go to a private school. However, it was really expensive, and she got some people to help, but then she was responsible ultimately for the tuition. And eventually that time she was able to get an apartment, but then she lost that apartment because it was too expensive. And she eventually had to move back with her sister. And during this time, she's working as a nanny, and she got this job or this lead from her sister, who's also a nanny. And by the way, during this time, nannies only made about $18,000 a year, which is probably why she was, or $18 per hour, which is less than $32,000 a year after taxes.
What year was this?
This was in 2012.
Okay. Like I said, I know nannies now. They usually should be charging a reasonable amount. That's way too low. They're watching people's goddamn kids.
But yeah, needless to say, it wasn't enough money for her and for anyone really. $18 an hour is not a lot. I'm sorry.
No, especially as an adult.
With a kid or kids. So, going back to this family that Yoselin worked for looked at Yoselin as part of their own family, and everything seemed fine. They even flew out to her hometown in the Dominican Republic to meet her family before they actually hired her. So they wanted to do their due diligence to make sure whoever they were getting was a good candidate to watch their kids.
Why they go meet her family?
I don't know. I think I think they also did it as a vacation because even when she was also working for them, when she would go back to visit, they would go with her just to go visit and I think vacation
experience. Yeah, that makes sense.
But ultimately, I think they wanted to do their due diligence, and this started to weigh heavy on her because some sources said that while she was watching their kids, they also had her do housekeeping stuff for them, even though she was only there to be a nanny, not clean their house and stuff. So I think that agitated her. But on the outside looking in, everything was fine. Even the family said they thought everything was fine, but apparently not everything was good. And where the spiritual thing comes in, we will get to that in a little bit. But on October 25th of 2012, Jocelyn was to take 2 of their 3 kids to meet up with the mother at one of the kids' swimming lessons. After the swimming lessons, they were going to go and head out to one of the children's dance recital, according to the HuffPost. The thing is, Yoselin never showed up with the kids to the swimming lesson. So naturally, I assume the mother ends up calling but didn't get an answer, so she goes home, and when she gets home, she discovers something extremely terrible. And when she gets inside, she discovered that her 2 children were stabbed multiple times and were in a bathtub in the house, and they were fully clothed. And the crazy thing is, as she walked into the bathroom, Yoselin shoved a knife in her own throat and tried to slit her own throat. And she also cut herself too.
Oh, okay. Hold up. So she was still in the bathroom with the 2 kids' bodies when the parent walked in, and as soon as the parent walked in, she tried to stab herself.
She stabbed herself. She cut her own neck. She stuck the knife in her throat and
So was she waiting for them to return just to do that, or did it all just happen? And
it probably all just happened.
Jesus.
And there was I'm pretty sure these were overkill too. There was when I say multiples, upwards of 30 stabs in one child, and then 8 in the other child, which kind of sucks. Well, it really does suck.
That reminds me of another case kind of similar where his mom stabbed her. I think it was a 2-year-old baby 19 times.
Yeah.
But the baby survived though. That was a crazy thing.
It's just wild. I could never.
I have a survival book. I'm sorry, this is another quick deviation. I have a survival book, and there's one chapter on people's likeliness to survive, and there's one passage that always stayed out of my mind. It said, "Babies are fragile, but yet resilient." And I was like, okay.
Great tidbit. So, unfortunately for Yoselin, she survived. And she was eventually taken into custody, but she was not immediately charged because she was in the hospital and they had her intubated because of her wounds. Eventually, though, she was indicted on murder charges, but on her hospital bed, she pled not guilty. And this was done by her lawyer, who entered a plea deal for Yoselin. Once she was out of the hospital, her sentencing didn't happen until 2008, and it was said that she was pure evil. And at first, she tried to play insanity. However, the jury did not acknowledge that she was insane, and they deemed her fit for her crime. And what's crazy about this was that her defense tried to play it off like demons or the devil was telling her to do this, which is this supernatural part that comes into it. So they said that she was possessed or she had some type of mental ailment or mental break, and she was hearing voices of like demons telling her to do this. But during the same time, like I said, she had a lot of financial problems. Stuff was weighing heavy. According to some sources, that it said that she did not like that she was being treated like a house cleaner versus a nanny and things like that. So there was a lot going on. However, I don't think that is an excuse for murdering people.
No, that's an excuse to go get therapy.
Yeah. So in 2018, she was given a life sentence, and she is still there to this day. And for this case, that's my case, but I did have a really hard time with this case, mostly because it involved children. I don't like cases, especially now that I'm a parent. It's like really weird to read about them. And these parents had to go through a lot. And for me, knowing that a life can be taken so easily scares me. And again, because I have a daughter of my own now. And this case, I was very conflicted about whether or not I should say the names, because you can easily find them if you wanted to. But I think it's important to say their names and talk about the family a little bit, because some good came out of this tragic event, these murders. So the family actually started a nonprofit called Choose Creativity. And what the nonprofit does is provide creative education programs for disadvantaged children. And this was done in honor of Lulu and Leo, the two children that they lost that day. They do have an Instagram page that you can go check out. It's called Lulu Leo Fund, and they're still active on it there. And since the loss of their two children, they had two more children, and they continue loving each other and loving life every day. And that is my case.
That was a ride. Wow. The insanity plea is always very interesting to me, because I feel like it never really works out for anyone, because it's really hard to prove that you just went insane, you know?
Especially if there's like no like medical history of that ever in one's life. Granted, I know like things could happen throughout life that could change things, but
it's hard to go get medical attention and help. But it's like, obviously something was wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least something good came out of it at the end.
Yeah. They've helped, I believe, over 2,300 children.
Oh, that's awesome.
With their program that they have, what they started.
Look at that. Turn a negative into a positive. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that. I think you topped mine. I'll give you that one. Touche, Battle.
I don't know how to spell that.
Neither do I. Look at us. Illiterate. I don't know Spanish. Anyway.
I don't think that's Spanish. I think that's French. Touche.
That was
T-U-C-H-E. I don't know. Maybe.
No, that was a joke. Whatever your head. But that was also the episode. Do I have anything to plug? I don't. Just keep checking out the YouTube. Check out the social medias. You know, we out there. Battle. Do you have anything?
Yeah. If there's someone if any of you are editors, we're looking for someone to do like some editing for us, and
someone who's not gonna not communicate. I just had a very bad experience over these last couple of weeks with someone editing, and it's been very, I don't know. Have good communication skills. Be able to like answer me and not take 3 weeks to answer one question.
Yeah, we're looking for someone to help us out and join the team as far as the back end stuff. I think we're good on hosts, but we just need help.
Yes, yeah, we're
not looking for other hosts. We're looking for someone that could do some editing for us, and just help us out. If you know anyone, or if you yourself think you feel up to it, please send us a message.
Yeah, hit us up. It's not extensive work.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really appreciate it. We appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening. Kisses from the homies. Okay. All right, I think we're recording.